Hey friends, Ash here with Gents. Today I'm coming at you guys with 5 different fresh fragrances that put me in a better mood when I spray these on. Now, you may have noticed, this is day 3 of just throwing a beanie on. Starting to look like Cam from Carolina Fragrance Reviews, but we're gonna roll with it. Maybe soon I'll be able to get a haircut, but probably not. So yeah, these are just 5 fragrances that I picked out that have freshness one way or another. Some of these more on the soapy fresh side of things, some of these more on the sweet fresh side of things, some of these even more on the woody fresh side of things. But each one of these fragrances is fresh in its own way, and each one of these fragrances is one that I like, one that puts me into a better mood. And a couple of these are fragrances that actually had to grow on me over time. Some of them I didn't like right away, but after wearing them multiple times, I started to go, hey, it's not so bad. So let's jump into this and check out these 5 fresh fragrances. Put me in a better state of mind. All right, let's jump into this. First fragrance in this list is one that came out in 2019, and this is actually the most recent purchase of mine out of these fragrances. This one right here, Michael Kors Extreme Sky. So for me, Michael Kors, at least fragrance-wise, goes back to the original Michael Kors for men, which I feel like is a very underrated tobacco fragrance with sweet dried fruits. Smells fantastic, great fragrance for fall and wintertime. Most all the men's flankers that have come out after that, which use typically this extreme moniker, so extreme whatever, have been overlooked. And it's not really the greatest naming convention for fragrances, I feel like. Extreme Sky, Extreme Speed, Extreme Blue. There are a lot of them out there and nobody seems to care. So I think one of the reasons I don't really like Extreme a whole lot as the naming convention for the Michael Kors fragrances is because a lot of times you'll see Extreme tacked onto the end of an original fragrance's name. So it'll be whatever the fragrance is, Extreme, kind of like you'll have whatever the fragrance's name is and then Perfume or Absolute or whatever. So these just get overlooked. I mean, this one isn't even on Fragrantica. Like, Fragrantica doesn't care enough to put this one on there yet. This has juniper, it's got cypress, it has cedar, it's got ozonic notes, some spicy notes in here as well. This one gonna be a fresh woody fragrance, so it's gonna give you like a green woodiness. The juniper here really pops. There's also clear wood in the base of the fragrance, which is essentially like if you took patchouli, you removed the earthiness, the dirtiness, and left the woody facets of patchouli. So this one is going to be like sweet, green, fresh, spicy woods. Like I said, a heavy, heavy, heavy dose of juniper, cedar, and cypress. Those are the main notes that I pull from this one. It's brisk, it's refreshing, it's clean, but at the same time a bit sweet and woody. I don't necessarily think of the sky. I know there are ozonic notes in here and it's Extreme Sky, but I do think that it's a really nice springtime fragrance, one that gets overlooked. And while it's not as memorable to me as the original Michael Kors, it is a solid flanker and one that I'm glad I picked up. I do feel like the opening to me is a bit better than the dry down. The dry down's not bad, but it does just go into, you know, clean and woody. The opening really has a lot of pop to it, a lot of almost effervescence. So it's like sparkling, fresh, sweet woods with juniper. The next one up is a fragrance that had to grow on me. And this is one that I love the opening. I really think the opening is great. It's just the performance, not so awesome, and the dry down, a little more boring, but the opening just does it for me. And it's Tiffany Love for men. This one also came out in 2019, just like the last fragrance, Extreme Sky. This one is a blue fragrance. By that, I mean super versatile, people pleasing, easy to wear, compliment pulling. It has orange and ginger in the top of the fragrance, and the orange and the ginger in this work so well in the opening. Is it sweet? Yeah, definitely on the sweeter side of things, but the ginger here is the way I like it to be used in conjunction with citrus in blue fragrances. If you're gonna put ginger in there, I want it to just leap off my skin, just really pop and sparkle and grab the attention of anybody around me. And when ginger is used correctly, or at least what I feel to be correctly in blue fragrances, that's what it does. When you mix that with citrus, it really just leaps off your skin. It sparkles. It's almost like it's got carbonation, like you can just smell it popping off your skin. And it does it very, very, very well in this fragrance. As it dries down, there's vetiver in here, cardamom, juniper, cypress. So you're gonna have a lot of the same notes actually that were in Extreme Sky. It's just this one takes it in a more mass appealing, sweet, spicy kind of way. Or at least in the way the cardamom and juniper are used here. The woods and the dry down of Tiffany in Love are more on the generic side to me than in Extreme Sky. Again, I think the dry down here is just a pretty big drop off from the opening, because the opening is really attention grabbing. And in the dry down, it's nice, it's clean, easy to wear, modern, just doesn't have that same attention grabbing, stopping power that this one does in the opening and first part of the mid. Like I said though, this has grown on me. The dry down doesn't bother me as much as it used to. I used to think, oh man, what a waste, it's so boring. But the opening smells so nice, and through the first part of the mid as well, that I tend to overlook it a little bit more now, the shortcomings of the fragrance, I should say. As I said, the performance on this one is not great. It doesn't project heavily, doesn't last for a really long time, and the best part of this fragrance is the opening. But you could say that about most of the fragrances in this list, because most of these fragrances are just fresh ones that I would spray on kind of as a pick-me-up, where I just really want to enjoy the opening of the fragrance, the mid of the fragrance, and I'm not worried as much about projection, longevity, or the dry down, because these are ones I'm wearing for myself right now, since I really can't go out anywhere and socialize. Next up, a fragrance that is basically forgotten in its own line of fragrances. When I think of this line, this is the last one I think of, so I decided to pull this one out, wear it a few times, and I was like, hey, that's pretty good. Maybe I shouldn't have stopped wearing that years back. And it's this one right here, Prada Luna Rossa Eau Sport. The Prada Luna Rossa line, up until Carbon, was well known for having clean, soapy fragrances. Easy to wear, fresh, soapy, clean. Once Carbon came out, that was basically Prada's take on the Sauvage DNA. Then you had Luna Rossa Black, which kind of went in another direction. So of those original ones, Luna Rossa Extreme, which was fantastic, shouldn't have been discontinued, but it was. Luna Rossa Sport and Luna Rossa Eau Sport. And this one just kind of almost got shuffled off. Like, nobody talks about it. Nobody talked about it that much when it came out. I bought this new back in 2016, and I had planned on reviewing it on the channel and just never got around to it. This one has citron, it's got lavender, it has bergamot, it's got ambergris, a little bit of cedar in here, a little bit of ginger. This one just soapy, fresh, refreshing. This is the kind of fragrance that you can spray on in high heat, and you're just gonna smell super, super clean, but at the same time, it's got a touch of class to it. It's got a good amount of refinement to the fragrance, not too heavy, not too in your face, and not too powdery either. Now, is there a little touch of powder in there, similar to what you'll find in the original Luna Rossa? Sure, there is, but like I said, it's not cloying, not in your face, not too strong. This one, easily wearable in high heat, and also a fragrance that works fantastically in springtime, like right now. Going to be more of a daytime fragrance, obviously, casual, office wear, situations like that. It is one that you could wear formally if you wanted to. Again, going back to that soapy, clean nature of the fragrance. Fragrances like that, typically you can dress up a little bit pretty easily. Performance on this fragrance, actually not that bad off my skin, which is a bit of a surprise because it is an Eau Sport and it comes in a larger size bottle than the others in the Luna Rossa line. So you might expect, oh, this is gonna last, 15, 20 minutes and then be gone, but that's not the case. And that is another positive about this fragrance. It comes in a 4.2 ounce bottle, 125 milliliters. So you get a little bit more bang for your buck in Eau Sport as compared to the original Luna Rossa or the original Luna Rossa Sport. For whatever reason, I remembered this one being a lot more boring than it is. That was my first impression of this fragrance back in 2016. Went back, gave this a couple wears, and feel like I was maybe a little bit harsh originally when I first smelled it. If you're not into just clean, soapy fragrances, clean, soapy, fresh, refined, it's not gonna be for you. But if you do like fragrances along those lines in that style, check this one out. Next up, a fragrance from Mugler. And this one, my wife loves, Mugler Flyaway. It's one of the flankers in the Mugler Cologne line. This one came out in 2018. So if you look on Fragrantica, there are just two notes, grapefruit and then cannabis, which I believe Mugler actually says is a C note for this fragrance. So they don't come out and say, yeah, it's cannabis, but that's what it is. They're just trying to be cute with it. This one I loved the first time I smelled it, and like I said, my wife did as well. It really, really sparkles. I talked about that with one of the previous fragrances, that kind of effervescence. This one has that in spades. When you first spray this one on, the grapefruit is just blowing up off my skin. It's just like leaping off like little sparkly pops of grapefruit. Very refreshing, very fresh, very bright, sweet, and then it's got this little bit of green tang to it, which is that cannabis note. So you've got this little tiny touch of something bitter underneath the grapefruit that works so well. Apparently not everybody thinks about this fragrance as highly as I do. I've seen some people review this one and say that it's not their cup of tea, but for me, just a simple, sparkling, effervescent grapefruit note that is sweet with a little bit of green bitterness underneath it. Not anything too complicated, but something that's just immediately uplifting when I smell it. That's a home run. Not everything has to be super complicated. Some fragrances can be just very simple, and in the opening smell about the same as it smells in the dry down. If you love the opening, if you love the way it smells, and you're okay with the fragrance not deviating or changing too much, there's nothing wrong with that. Not every fragrance has to have multiple nuances. Not every fragrance has to change from the opening into the first part of the mid, and then change again into the middle part of the mid, and change again as it heads into the dry down, and change again as it heads into the far dry down. Sometimes that makes for a more interesting scent, but sometimes you don't want that. Sometimes you just want something that's pleasant. And I know that's an oversimplification, but sometimes that's just the way it is. Sometimes you just want something that smells nice and is simple, clean, fresh, maybe a little bit sweet. And that's this one. It does have, like I said, that little bitter green undertone. Some people may think of it as grassy, or as the smell of like leaves from a tree, maybe crunched up depending on the type of leaf, mixing in with the grapefruit. But to me, it smells awesome. Fly Away by Mugler. And really, I could have put the original Mugler cologne on here as well. That one would work just as well. Clean, green, soapy, sophisticated, easy to wear, and a much more affordable smelling take on Original Vetiver. Or actually, Original Vetiver is an expensive take on Mugler cologne, I should say. But that one would work really well also. I love that fragrance. And then the last one that we're gonna talk about here is this one, Dior Homme Cologne 2013. There was also a Dior Homme Cologne that came out before this one, which is a different fragrance altogether. I believe that came out in 2007. I'm not gonna look that up right now, but I'm pretty sure 2007 was the original Dior Homme Cologne. If you look this one up on Fragrantica, it's got 3 notes listed: bergamot, grapefruit blossom, and musk. And this is one of those more simplistic fragrances, but man, it smells awesome. Icy, fresh. Some people will compare this to the smell of like an iced lemonade. It is a summer fragrance through and through, a high heat fragrance, I should say. Casual, daytime kind of scent. The projection is not amazing. The longevity, also not amazing, but this one is really just a pick-me-up sort of fragrance, very uplifting. It's super clean, and when you look at the fragrance itself, it almost has this lemonade-like tint to the fragrance. So you can see what I'm talking about here. It's got this like very light blue tint, and that really gets across how this one smells. icy, fresh, clean, citrus, little touch of white florals, musk. No need to really overcomplicate this one, just puts you in a better frame of mind. Dior Homme Cologne. A cheaper fragrance that's gonna give you a similar take to Dior Homme Cologne is Jimmy Choo Man Ice. Just throwing that out there. That one, not quite on the level of Dior Homme Cologne in terms of quality. In terms of bang for your buck, Jimmy Choo Man Ice probably a better deal. A lot of times you can get that for about 20 bucks. And it's a really nice fragrance as well. It's just, if I could have only one of them, I'd rather have Dior Homme Cologne. And I wanted to bring this up very quickly, not really to go over it in the list, but just something I noticed earlier today. So, Y Eau Fraiche, the newest in the Y line. Obviously, you look at these two bottles, Y Eau Fraiche, Dior Homme Cologne, and you can see that this is directly competing with this to an extent, YSL and Christian Dior. But this one, Y Eau Fraiche, when I first smelled this, did a first impression on it. I believe I said something like it wasn't fragrance that I could directly tie in with the other Y fragrances, that it was filling the summer niche for Y fragrances, but that I didn't really get a whole lot of Y Eau de Toilette or Y Eau de Parfum in there. But today, when I smell this from the atomizer, you 110,000% can smell the Y DNA in there. If you just give it a quick sniff from the atomizer, you could tie this right in there with Y Eau de Toilette and Y Eau de Parfum. Is that information really pertinent or important for this video? No. But that is a fresh fragrance, and when I was going through here compiling this list, I just picked this one up and smelled it. And when I did, I was like, oh, there it is. Yeah, super, super, super obvious. When you smell it, you could do it blind and immediately know, oh yeah, that's in the Y line of fragrances. You don't even need to see the bottle. So just kind of an addendum to this video. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for me with these 5 fresh fragrances that put me in a better frame of mind. Hopefully all you guys out there doing well, staying safe. Thanks for all your support, and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.